Hello,
Hi there.
and welcome to our last Deadly Doll Marathon. It's not really a doll, but it's a teddy bear that comes to life.
It's kind of arguably a doll. I mean, it's a. Well, like, when I was a kid, we called them stuffed animals. Everyone calls them plushies now.
Oh, yeah, they're stuffed animals.
But just, like, it doesn't really matter. Same difference. It's a teddy bear. We covered teddy bears in other doll movies recently, but this is, like, the focal point of this movie. Um, should we go directly into the plot, or, like, what do we want to do first?
Just go into the plot. Basically, this movie is about a woman who moves back home, and her little girl, her stepdaughter, starts seeing this imaginary friend.
Mm-hmm.
And things just start transpiring. The little girl has to make. It's really fast paced, kind of. Not really, but it is. Like, you just find out that this little girl has this list that this teddy bear made her make. That if she completes this list, her imaginary friend will take her to the Never Ever.
Something like that,
Is that
yeah.
what it's called? Never Ever?
I think they called it that, yeah, at some point. I think.
Yeah, some land, some magical land. Um, so yeah, that's basically the plot of this movie.
Yeah.
Is this imaginary teddy bear?
Basically, yeah. It starts out with this. The beginning of the movie is this woman having a nightmare, and it's like this man who we find out is her father, but he's chasing her in the house. And then he becomes like this spider thing, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she wakes up and realizes it was a dream. And then, I guess you find out that it's she's marrying into this. She's marrying this man who already has children from a previous marriage, and they're going. And I guess because she wanted to try to, I don't. They don't explain. I think they kind of explain, but not like I don't remember exactly the detailed explanation. But they want to go back to her childhood home to kind of like,
Yeah.
because she had memories there, thought it'd be nice for the family, but also you kind of find out later that's also for other reasons, subconsciously for her, or consciously. I don't really know if they completely tell us, but they kind of lead us to believe it's sort of conscious, but also subconscious at the same time. That she wants to go to her old house because she had memories there that were also not so good, and her dad, I guess, tried to save her from something a long time ago. And you find out, long story short, the whole plot story, because we do spoilers, she had an imaginary friend named Chauncey the Bear, or CB as she used to call it as a kid, and her dad used to talk to her about using the CB radio, and eventually you find out that this is not a real bear, it's imaginary. The whole point of the movie is actually not about necessarily her, but her stepdaughter, that the man she's married to, his youngest daughter, who's seeing the spirit first, and she doesn't really acknowledge that she has any memories at the beginning of the movie. Basically, he has these children do this list where basically you do different things. Eventually, the list becomes more and more dangerous, and it's supposed to unlock the world to Never Ever, where you go there and get trapped, and then he basically eats you.
Yeah, that's one thing I did like, the twist. I don't know if you call it a twist, but you find out that the bear doesn't even exist.
And he does, but he doesn't.
Imaginary, though.
He's not, but the actual bear himself is not. Yeah.
No one else can see him except for her and the little girl.
Well, also the only reason why she can see him at all, she can't see him as an adult. Only children can see him. It's for children, but it can drag other people in through other scenarios. So, like for example, the bear is only visible to children. So all the adults go, "Oh yeah, we can see it," or whatever. Or your imaginary friend. But they don't actually know what it looks like. They can't actually physically see it. It's not tangible to them. It's not something that feels real. To them, it's very real, and it's not an imaginary friend. It's just a real friend that disguises itself as this teddy bear. But it's not a teddy bear exactly. It comes in the form of this teddy bear to these two characters. But it can appear as anything that makes sense to you and appeals to your childhood fantasies.
Yes.
And it can be anything you want it to be, and that's kind of like the whole scary part of the movie. They don't really explain this whole imaginary world very well. They kind of try to tell you, like, that it, I mean, they tell us that much, but they don't really tell us, they don't give a lot of backstory as to this whole imaginary concept. There's not a lot of introduction of this, even in small ways. They kind of talk about how imaginary friends for a long time, and basically these demons can attach themselves to you through wanting to have, through wanting to, like, to grow up and leave them behind. The entity, like, a lot of them are easy, kind spirits, but they become more negative because of, you know,
the fact that we forget about them.
We forget about them, so they get angry and they become warped, and then they cause distress and things like that. So they become dark in entities, and some are naturally dark and pretend to be. It's complicated. I don't even know if I completely understood what they were trying to go with that message. I have to watch it again.
The movie had a good story. It was not executed that well, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think it had some good concepts, and I think it was fun to see this kind of imaginary world. I don't think there's a lot of movies that specifically go... There's movies that kind of do something similar, but nothing where they actually show an imaginary world, and it's this whole, like, it's focused on not just, like, having a ghost, imaginary friend, like, whatever, but also that it's an imaginary world, and everyone has their own imaginary friends, and they only talk about the concept in a way that's at all eerie. There's also this woman in the movie who's a neighbor who was the babysitter of this woman. Again, the woman that's being married into this family, she was the girl who lived in the house first, had experienced this Chauncey the bear first. I guess it was her babysitter the night that everything happened, and her dad went crazy and whatever, tried to save her, but you find out that as much as she knows her, and then the lady tries to just acknowledge the fact that she knows her or doesn't remember her, she does say that she was called by this entity to take them to the art world, because eventually at the end of the movie they go into the portal, the wall,
imaginary world,
which is created with all this list of things you have to do. You open up a portal, this door in the basement of the house, and you go into the Never Ever,
yeah.
Where a bunch of things happen and people show up, and there's a couple predictable jump scares, and stuff that seems very like modern horror movies to do. But also there's also some things that are like kind of interesting. There weren't any real kills in this movie except for one, and it was kind of half on screen and half off screen, and it's the crazy woman who takes them in there. Because her character's interesting. It starts as a character that's kind of eerie and weird and unsettling and kind of odd, and then becomes someone who's like, seems like she's really nice and helpful, and then goes to be completely crazy and wants them to stay there, and then she's like, we can do whatever we want here, we can be whatever we want, and nothing's bad, blah blah blah, and then like the bear comes out of this door, because there's all these doors and stuff, and it just comes in like and just grabs her, and it's like it eats her and stuff.
Yeah.
And
I will say real quick before we end, that the bear scenes were kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like with the big, huge monster.
Well, and they don't show you too much. They just show you just enough to the point where you get the idea of it. Because the thing is, there's like long scenes of it, but they don't show you all of its details up close that much. They kind of show you its overall size and impending, you know what I mean? Like how, like, monstrous and huge this thing is. And I kind of like that aspect of it. It wasn't like really shown exactly what it looks like. There was actually some blood, but it wasn't like blood like you'd see in a slash movie per se. Like you saw blood on the floor, like when the woman's getting killed and whatever, and it pulling out underneath the door. But again, it has that PG-13 vibe to the way that they do it. So it kind of tries to tempt that PG-13 rating.
So overall, I gave this, like a C+?
This was supposed to be my birthday horror movie that I went to see. I think it was interesting, but kind of all over the place, too.
So what would you give it real quick?
I give it like a C.
Okay. So go see it, don't go see it, it's up to you.
Yeah? Like and follow for more. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.